6, comparing and ordering decimals. Our essential question is how can you compare decimals? And this graphic shows you, they're basically lining up the decimals like we did when we were practicing with whole numbers. We're going to do the same thing with our decimals. We have no vocab for this lesson. Example number 1, we're going to use our greater than, less than signs or equal sign to compare our two numbers. So when we talked about whole numbers, we lined them up, and we're going to do the same thing with the decimals. Now what's important to remember is that the decimals have to line up exactly. So we have 1 and 9/100 and 1 and 9/10. Now I lined up my decimals, and I start at the left. So I look in my left column first. They both have 1s for whole numbers, so that doesn't tell me anything. So then I move on to my decimal places. So now I look in the 10th place. The 10th place is the greatest place for decimals. So I have a 0 and a 9. Obviously, I know that the 9 is greater. So this number is my bigger number. Remember, when you do your greater than, less than signs, the bigger side has to point toward the bigger number, and the smaller side, the little point, points to the smaller number. Now I know sometimes when you immediately look at these numbers, you think, oh, this is bigger because it has more digits. It has 3 digits, and this number only has 2. But that's not the case. That's why it's very important that you line them up and then start comparing from left to right. Example number 2, we're doing the same thing using greater than, less than, and I'm going to line them up. I have 18 and 1,000 and 18 and 100. See how I lined my decimals up? Put them in the same place. Okay? Starting at the left, I have a 1. That tells me nothing. They both have 1s. Moving on to the 8. They both have 8s. That tells me nothing. Moving on to my decimals. The 10th place tells me nothing. They both have 0s. My 100th place, though, gives me an answer, because I have a 1 down here, and 1 is bigger than 0. So this is my greater number. Again, the bigger side goes toward the bigger number. So the way I read this, it says 18 and 1,000 is less than 18 and 100. Okay, ordering them from least to greatest. Doing the same thing. I've already lined all of them up here. Since we're doing least to greatest, I have to look for the smallest number first. So I'm automatically drawn to these 3 numbers because they have a 6 as a whole number. So that's going to be smaller. So I'm going to rewrite those numbers up here just so we can compare those 3 first. Okay, so looking at the 1st place, they have 6s. That tells me nothing. In the next place, I have a 2, a 1, and a 2. So instantly, this stands out to me because 1 is smaller than 2, and I'm looking for the least number first. So that's my least number. I can cross that off. The next one, since these both have 2, I move to the next place. In the next place, I have a 5 and a 9 in my 100th place. 5 is obviously smaller, so this is my next smallest number. 6 and 257 thousandths. Then that leaves me with 6 and 29 hundredths. I can cross both of those off. Now I'm only left with 2 numbers. The 7 tells me nothing, so I can cross that off. Look in my 10th place. I have a 0 and I have a 6. 0 is smallest, so that has to be my next smallest number. 7 and 8 hundredths. And that leaves me with my greatest number, which is 7 and 6 tenths. Here are your practice problems, doing the same thing we just did together. Don't forget to fill out the bottom of your sheet with either questions, a word problem, and rate your understanding.